Welcome to Scene Change, a podcast by the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division. All about equality, opportunity, accessibility, and the arts. Here, you'll learn adaptive techniques from performers in the know. We are changing what it means to be blind, one stage at a time. Thank you for joining us today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scene Change. I'm Lizzy Muhammad Park, your host of the show, and today we have a very special episode for you. Probably my favorite one to date, and I know that I always say that, but it's really not my fault that our guests just keep getting better and better. So, we have Precious Perez joining us today, and of course, she needs no introduction. So, we'll just start with a clip of her latest, or should I say brand new, release, Sin Preguntar. Let's have a quick listen.
Es como las olas que te descontrolan, te revuelcas, sube despacio, lento, te hace dudar, pero baila sola cuando se le antoja, no pide permiso y te mueve el piso sin preguntar.
All I can say is wow. Welcome back to the show, Precious.
Thank you. It's been a minute.
I know. I mean, is it safe to say that you've grown since the last time we've had you on the show? You've been doing so much stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Tell us what you've been up to most. You know what? I'll make it a more concrete question. This is a question about growth, just to start. Since I don't even know what. I'll pick a song. This is an old one, so
okay, all right.
Since Agua de Valencia.
Oh, that's actually perfect.
What's changed in your life?
So when Agua came out, it was 2019. Shane and I had just gotten engaged. I was still at Berkeley, mid program, and like learning how to get a band together, doing all that, like playing shows and all these different things. I was still really in the thick of learning and applying all of that and really figuring out where I fit in the industry and where I wanted to fit. And that really continued through until I graduated, which was, goodness, was that last year? I mean, I conferred in December of 2021, but I walked in May of 2022. So I graduated then, and really, like, I think that the new era, as I'm calling it, for this this new release and like the growth that I'm experiencing now really started when I joined Ramped in 2021. I think, was that 20? Oh my goodness, I don't even know anything anymore. Dates are so I think it was 2021. I think, yes. I think. Yeah. We'll go with that.
Wow. So you mentioned Ramped. Let's start right there, because I know how I am as a listener. If I hear a new word, I'm like, what does that mean? It'll bother me until we get to it. So what do you want to say about Ramped?
So Ramped is something that I am super, super passionate about, and I'm really grateful to be in leadership in the movement. We are recording artists and music professionals with disabilities. And we are a global network of music professionals with disabilities. Our mission is to elevate disability culture, advocate for accessibility within the music industry, and promote inclusion. So we are representing disabled music professionals. We have a directory of music professionals where the industry can go and hire disabled music professionals competitively. So we're serving the music industry, and we're also able to elevate ourselves as individual disabled artists, you know, in the industry that, you know, because I think what happens is people are like, oh, well, we don't know where to find them. Well, we're right here. And so now there's no excuse for that. And we've really partnered with the Grammys and done accessibility consulting. Um, we are officially partnered with them, and this was our second year doing that. We have been featured in Billboard, New York Times, Grammy.com, just all these different things for our work. And it's just been really amazing to be a part of something that is really making an impact. And you know, I'm vice president now, and I'm really really excited and always like wake up ready to do the work and excited to do the work because not only is it important, but you know, it's baked in for me as an artist into what I do. So it's just another outlet that I get to advocate.
Wow. So if I could boil it down to just a few words to make it like way oversimplifying it. So RAMPD ramped. You guys worked together to make music more accessible. Is that to advocate, or what would you say? You worked together to do what
Make
exactly?
the music industry more accessible, but
The
also
industry, that's the
to
key.
be the hub for the industry to find disabled music professionals.
I see. Wow. Okay. So, all right. So I feel like Ramp is gonna come back up in our conversation later, but just so that the listeners know. And you also mentioned a new era. What is new about you in this era?
Um, so I am fully shifting to the Latin space now. I've always wanted to make Latin music and to be the first blind Latina at the forefront of the Latin music industry, and it's finally coming to fruition. Um, I actually this opportunity wouldn't be possible without my label out of Costa Rica. They are a nonprofit label called We Could Be Music, and they work to amplify the voices of indigenous and marginalized artists. And they actually found me, um, and they reached out sometime last year and said, "Hey, um, we want to do a project with you. Would you be open to that?" And the conversation started very vaguely because at the time it was just before I was about to graduate and move and everything. I didn't really know where I wanted to go direction wise. And then I heard back in probably September and we continued talking, and it led to deciding on they're a small team, but they're an incredible team of people. Um, Raquel Gomez was actually the songwriter on this latest single, Sin Preguntar. And basically, they gave me pitches and they said, well, which ones do you like based on the things that we talked about for my vision for myself and what I wanted to, you know, put out in the world and the artist that I want to be. And they nailed every single aspect of all of it. And so in April of this year, I went to Costa Rica and recorded that song along with another that Raquel wrote. And then there's a third that I wrote that they are now producing. And that's going to come out next month, in the middle of next month. So I'm just, I'm so excited because this is where I want to be and where I was supposed to be. And so um, it's taken a long time to get here, and I'm really excited to just celebrate, you know, starting like really, really starting in the space that I hope to grow into.
Wow, that I love that story. It's a true testament to how everything happens for a reason. It seems like, um, very much like you said, it took a while, but it happened perfectly. And
Yep.
I'm a huge believer in things like that. So it just seems like, you know, your graduation date, not quite knowing the next steps, everything just seems to have lined up perfectly. The work that you've done with Ramped, everything else. How did they find you?
I think they found me through the Jubilee video I was in. I
Will you talk
I
more about that?
didn't. Yeah, I was about to because yeah, I heard you gasp and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta tell this story. um, so it's funny because the story behind that video is so Jubilee is this really big YouTube channel. And they do a lot of different things. They do like spectrum, like middle ground, where they have people with on different sides of like an issue, like talk about their opinions and things like that. And then they have a series called Ask Me Anything, which is, they get a certain person and it's like an Ask Me Anything. So they are interviewed by people that have questions for them or have always wondered something. And then you get to meet them afterwards. And you're divided by like this partition. And it's really, really cool. Well, they were looking for a disabled person. And so I applied because I really started watching their videos and I was like, man, it'd be so cool to do this. So last year I applied. I met with the casting person and, we had a great conversation. Um, and they were looking specifically for a blind person because they had a partnership with a sponsorship with Google and they wanted to like make sure they showcase the accessibility of the voice features and all those different things. So um, I I was waiting for a response and then I got the message that said, well, we decided to go another direction, but we'll definitely keep you in mind. So I was like, okay. But then the next day, mind you, this is like a couple of days before the shoot, so like um it was pretty wild. The next day they're like, we actually really want you to come, so can you still do this? Are you still available? And I was like, yeah. So made it happen. And that at this point probably has about 200K or so views. And so that circulated. Um, and I guess the founder of the label saw that video and it caught her attention.
And Shane said that it has more than 400,000 views now. So that's awesome. So I feel like this is an excellent example of things that we really want to highlight on this show. The story that you just told is really good because people often assume that belonging to a URM, underrepresented minority for any listener who doesn't know, assumes that you know you belong to this certain kind of a group and therefore opportunities will be removed. But in reality, I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but there are times when a diverse background can help you to gain opportunities in the way that the world is headed nowadays. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Like there is uniqueness and um, there is something to be found within the intersections of people's different identities because everybody's got their own story and their own experiences, and that can really kind of make you stand out in certain situations. And also, you know, I don't want to leave it unsaid that it's a combination of that, but that's not all it takes to get these opportunities. Like, you still have to put yourself out there. As hard and scary as that is, like it's still important to, if you want to do something, you don't really know how it's going to happen, just put things in motion to work towards that and show up when you're asked to and move things around. And sometimes you go above and beyond because it's something that is important for what you're working towards. So like you do have to on your end really put forth the effort in order to move forward in the direction you want to.
That is 100% true. I mean, it takes drive, it takes talent. Obviously, like you still have to be good too. Like these these things are real. But it's also good to know that, don't let the fact that you have a disability or that you belong to whatever certain gender, racial, whatever identity that you feel people, oh, they're not gonna want me because they only want fill in the blank. No, I think things are starting to shift a little bit more. But yeah, I like what you said. It's a balance. It's a balance between the two because it's everyone's different. So everyone's looking for something
Exactly.
different. Um, but could you tell us more, like more stories like this? So, I mean, you've been to the Grammys and, that's through RAMPD. Um, you've gone to Costa Rica and done this, Jubilee video. What other experiences have you had that you can share with our audience that are like in this vein, of being a blind Latina singer, songwriter, so on and so forth, a music professional?
Um, I had the opportunity to interview with Telemundo New England. And for listeners who don't know, Telemundo is a big deal in the
That was
Latin world.
huge,
They are
huge.
the like huge entertainment network partnered with NBC. Like it was a huge deal. And I actually I think what happened was, oh yeah, yeah, I remember why it happened. So in January of this year, I got this random email. And when I tell you it was random, like it had no signature. It looked like it could have been a spam email because it wasn't from any official email address or anything. And it was like, "Hey, do you want to perform at the inauguration of the governor of Massachusetts ceremony?" Um, and Maura Healey is the new governor, and she was the first woman, first openly gay governor in Massachusetts. And so I was wondering if it was real, but I was also like, I mean, yeah, of course I want to do that. Um, and so I followed up. I called the number that was in the email, and it was legitimate. And uh, next thing I knew, I was booking a flight to go to Boston to perform. And that was really powerful because I decided that I was going to, they wanted me to do something patriotic, like America the Beautiful or something like that. And I chose America the Beautiful, but I decided I was going to do it in a bilingual way.
I
So
love that.
I couldn't find any versions. And I have this friend, Stephanie, and she's a translator and she's also Puerto Rican. I was like, girl, can you really quickly translate this for me so that I don't sound stupid when I'm up there? Because sometimes when you translate things, or like, I'm fluent, but sometimes the words that I know for a thing in the context of something else is not accurate, like in those kind of contexts. And
Yeah.
so I just really wanted to make sure that I had the right information before I like went out there and did that in front of a bunch of people. Um, so she sent it back to me and I like weaved it together and I performed that and they saw that and one of the producers messaged me on Instagram and said, "Hey, we want to do an interview. Are you cool with that? Like, do you want to do that?" And I was like, yeah. What do you mean?" So my family was freaking out because Telemundo's a huge deal. And what's funny is that that interview didn't really get as much reaction from people. And that kind of goes into this thing that I've been dealing with where I'm like, well, there are some people that just don't get this vein. Like, they don't get Latin music, so they don't, and the Latin world, so they're not really going to hype it up because they don't understand it as well. Like, it's not familiar, you know?
Hmm.
And so I think in entering this new, as comfortable and confident and as excited as I am, like sometimes I get a little scared that like maybe people don't support this because they don't get it, you know?
Do you feel like you're being supported by the Latinx community, or do you feel like not
Oh,
really?
absolutely.
Okay, okay, okay.
Absolutely.
Huh, I think you could be right. About that for people who like I guess don't really follow. But I feel like everybody knows Telemundo. I don't know. I guess I grew up in Philly, so it's the Puerto Rican community there is huge, right? So to me,
Right,
I'm like, oh, like
right.
everybody knows, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And so is the Dominican community there too. So I don't maybe certain areas won't know it as well as others. But I mean, listen, anybody who's listening, if you don't know anything about it, listen, voiceover is going to call it Telemundo in a very, English accent, but
Mm-hmm.
it's there, it's on Peacock, it's on, you know what I mean, right where your NBC and Bravo and everything else is. you'll see it. Give it a listen. You might see Precious on there. So let's talk this vein. This is like probably one of my favorite topics to talk about is facing fears and overcoming obstacles and things like that. A big thing that you've done recently is travel. You've mentioned Costa Rica. I don't know if your Telemundo interview was in person or on Zoom, or if you need to travel somewhere for that, but you've been a lot of different places. You've done the Grammys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could you describe to us some of the travel, maybe obstacles or maybe just experiences? Because maybe it's not something that you needed to overcome, but it's something that you had to do. And that blind people, or not all, I won't say all, but there are a lot of blind people who are afraid to do this thing. Um,
Yeah.
could you just sort of give our listeners some encouragement related to traveling and just getting out there and doing what they want to do?
Absolutely. So, like, I'll start by saying I really don't like packing. For as much as I have to pack, I really don't like it because I'm like, oh, what if I forget something? Like, I have to figure out which clothes. And then, of course, I'm like, oh God, what shoes go with this outfit? Because especially if I'm going to perform somewhere, I need to make sure I bring that outfit. And then I'm like, well, what else? And trying to condense. And it's just, I also have anxiety. So that factors in. It gets really bad around travel. I like have to make sure I'm there 2 hours early. Like I have to make sure that I make sure I have everything that I need. Sometimes I make lists just to make sure that I don't forget something important. Like I am to a T, do my best to be prepared. Um, but that doesn't always, as much as we plan and we do our best, things always happen, right? So when I went to the Grammys this year, forewarning, do not take Spirit, friends. Spirit or Frontier, no good. Um, and I'm about to explain why. So I had my flights booked to go to the Grammys. And I was gonna go and it was great. And I was packing and then I get an email. Oh yeah, your flight's been canceled.
Wow.
And so I'm like, all right, when's the next one? Not in time for me to make the events I need to be at before the actual Grammy event. So guess I have to drop another $500 from my savings on a new flight because I have to
Wow.
be there earlier. Um, Also on this same excursion, I I overpacked my giant suitcase because me thinking, oh, well, it's giant. That means it can hold literally until it's too full. Well, not the case because A, I didn't weigh it, and B, if you fill it up that full to where you can barely move it, then it's probably over 50 pounds. So I get to the airport, didn't bring an extra bag or anything, and they were like, "Yeah, it's gonna cost you like $100 to check this unless you take some stuff out." So they gave me a trash bag, and I had to put clothes in a trash bag and walk around with this giant trash bag all through the airport until I got to where I was going. So just don't be like me. But in all seriousness, there are things that can happen, but the good thing is that there are really good people. Generally, I know this world is a wild place to live in, these days, but there are good people. There's assistance available at the airport. I always use it because I'm an anxious person, and there are people that feel like you should figure it out on your own, and that's cool. Different preferences, that's fine. I personally think that if you're anxious or if you haven't done it or whatever, get the assistance. You go to the check-in desk, you say you need help getting to the gate, and they will call someone, and that someone will take you from point A to point B, and it'll be smooth for the most part. Sometimes there's flight delays. Sometimes there's a lot of things that we can't predict, but just know that assistance is available as long as you ask for it. And, when in doubt, just ask for help. Like there is no shame in that. I do it a lot.
I agree 100%. I mean, I'm also someone who will request airport assistance. I see absolutely nothing wrong with it. And look, there's people who don't, and good for them. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And
exactly.
if you want to try it, try it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think that what you said is exactly right. Do whatever works for you. Don't ever be ashamed to ask for help. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Everybody needs help at some point, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's a matter of accessibility. Sometimes there are things, in the airport that are just not accessible. So you end up having to ask for help anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't update, the app or whatever to
Yeah.
tell you that there was a delay and there's a giant screen right there and everyone else is able to look at it. It's kind of a
Yeah,
pain. You know what I mean?
one time I had a gate change on me a couple years
Yeah.
ago, and I was sitting there and I didn't know the gate changed because I didn't get an alert, but I guess the monitor showed it.
Hmm.
And then they were apparently paging me, but it was in a whole other hallway, so I couldn't even hear the announcement or anything
Exactly.
because it was a whole different. So they had to rebook me on the next flight because it was their fault.
It's their fault.
But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's interesting how travel can be. I think this, to date, the smoothest experience I've ever had was when I got 5-star service when I went to go to an acting gig. They had me in cars getting to and from everywhere. They had the airport greeter.
I love
The
that.
like I had to worry about no logistics and I was like, what is this life right now?
That is your
But of
future life.
course, that is like, gonna be that way because that's why they pay for it. I didn't pay for that, you
But
know?
not only that, but soon enough, that's gonna be like your whole life, like before you know it, like you just wait, you know what I mean? You think, these different people, you think about Beyonce and J-Lo, like they don't have to go and wait in lines and do this and that. They have a car take them from point A to point
You're
B.
right.
You know what I mean? They have a greeter.
Yeah.
I was in the airport the other day, and there was a congresswoman coming. So they were like, "Oh, I didn't hear the name, but Congresswoman so and so is coming." And they're like, like prepare the halls, or I don't know, like they didn't say those words, but basically, it was very
Yeah.
clear that Congresswoman so and so is very important, and she's coming, and make way for her. And that's how it's gonna be for Precious. So you just wait. I just wanna be like a fly on the wall during one of these experiences, and be like, yes, let's go. But okay, let's talk about accessibility though. So you guys are making the Grammys more accessible. What does that mean?
So
When I
we,
say you guys, sorry, for the
yeah,
listeners, when I say you guys, I mean RMPD.
yeah. So Ramped also consults on accessibility. Um, so, we worked with them on things like, the Recording Academy controls like the live show, the, red carpet, pre-show and so we didn't have control over like anything that CBS did, which was like the telecast. But we worked with them on interpreters on the red carpet, having a ramp, having ASL and captioning, and making sure all of those things were set up and ready, and just integrated. And so those are the kinds of things that Ramp works on, is really creating these positive relationships with other music industry organizations in order to really make things accessible from the ground up, through building these strong relationships and really showing why it's important for accessibility and how it benefits everybody. So it's a very positive advocacy that we do, and we do it through partnerships and we do it through consulting and all these different things, and it's really really exciting.
And then when you think about, I'm still on this vein of travel and accessibility too. You said that you traveled somewhere for an acting gig. What was that accessibility like, as far as being in front of an audience acting or on stage or however you did it? What's the accessibility of acting been in your experience?
So this is actually wild because this was my very first acting role. Like, your girl has never taken an acting class, but I'm dramatic, so it works, I guess. um, so the way this happened was, I know someone who helps cast authentically for, Apple TV and all these things. So one day I had seen this casting call on Facebook and they were looking for like a white female that was blind in like their 30s for this thing. And I was like, well, I'm not a white female, so I'm just not even going to bother applying for that. Well, I get a call from this person and he goes, "Hey, Precious, I put your name in for this role. I think you'd be a really interesting choice for them, and I hope you get it." And I went, "Well, okay, I guess I'm gonna self tape." So for me, self taping is me sitting in front of my MacBook webcam because that's the only way that I can do it myself, like, and know that I'm centered. So I can't really, like, change the angle or like stand up or whatever, but it's worked for me so far. And I just really don't like having to rely on people to send in self tapes or auditions whenever I need to send them in. So I found a way to just make sure, like, I do it through Zoom. So I start a meeting, I turn my video on, turn my brightness up, and I just hit record. That way, I have the video and I can just airdrop it to my phone and send it wherever I need to send it. I could probably also do that with my phone, but that's more of like selfie vibes that I'm able to do on my own. So I'd rather do it on the webcam, but that's I'm tangenting. But anyway, um, so I get this email that's like, "We want you to self tape, like, do these, they send me the instructions on what I should do, like slate, and this is the scene, and please read XYZ." So I did, and it was very quick. Like, the turnaround was insane because I think they wanted it the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got the email, and within the hour, I was like, all right, it's a quick scene. I can do this. I had to put on my Southern Belle accent. That's like literally the only accent I can remotely do. Um, and I sent it in, and next thing I know, they're like, "We want you to play this role." Um, and I was like, "Huh?" And it's a Paramount Plus miniseries. So I was ecstatic because I'm like, this doesn't happen. Like, who auditions for their first
Yeah.
role like this and gets it? Like, that's nuts. So it was very, very exciting. They were very communicative about, what do you need from us? And I mentioned, like, I just need someone to guide me around set because that's a giant set and I have no idea where anything is. And I'm only going to be there for a day, so it's not like I'll really have time to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were shooting on like this giant ranch, and there were trailers and mud and all kinds of, like, I was like, nah, I need help. I didn't know that previously, but I'm glad I did ask for that because I would have been lost. Um, but they were really good about, I was like, I need the script in Word doc, and they sent that over, and I had direct communication with people, on the ground to let me know when the driver was coming. The driver was really nice. Everybody was so nice, and made sure that, whenever we were marking the scene. So I guess there's different things. So when you mark, you're like, um, you go through it and you really start to like feel it out with the other actor, and the director kind of gives you notes, and then from there, you kind of just like move from position to position. And this for me was one scene, and it was, I had to go from like standing on a porch to like walking inside, grabbing something and coming back. And so making sure that I could get there, um, you know, because I couldn't, because of the time period, like they didn't have canes, so I couldn't use a cane. So making sure that like there were ways for me to like, all right, if you walk this many steps this way, um, this is your spot, or, you know, all you have to do is focus on walking straight ahead, and then I'm going to put this right in this corner that you will always find, so that way you can make sure to grab the thing that you need to grab when you walk out. So they were very accommodating, and everybody was super, super nice, and it was probably the best first acting experience I could have ever had. Um, like TV acting, because I did do a play reading at the Kennedy Center before that this year, and that was absolutely incredible. So I'm kind of just
Whoa.
dabbling into
Wait.
everything I can.
I was gonna say, stop right there. Do not just talk about that amazing experience and then jump off to another amazing experience. We need to digest this, you know? Okay. So are you allowed to say where it was recorded
Um,
or no? Is that secret?
wait, the
The Paramount Plus thing.
the Paramount Plus. It was in Texas.
Well, so you fly to Texas, you have this entire acting gig. It's an on-screen gig. You're
Yeah.
playing a blind person. Was that part right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're playing a blind person in the time period that you couldn't use a cane. So that must have been interesting because I know you're a huge cane user.
Yeah, I was like,
So
what do you mean I can't just like
that took some acting in itself. I know it did.
yeah.
Um, so that, wow, that is absolutely huge. So whenever you're able to share like more information about it or, whenever we're able to see it, you would
Yes, I
definitely need
know
to let
they're
us know.
wrapped now and it'll probably come out toward the end of the year. Um
I'm too excited for
the
this.
show is called Bass Reeves. Um
Bass Reeves.
it's in the Yellowstone era. It's about the first black I think marshal it was, like US Marshal somewhere in but it's very like Western and um along the lines of Yellowstone. So um it's really, really cool. And I can't say anything else until it's my episode airs. So,
It sounds
um,
absolutely amazing.
yeah.
Um, Everyone stay tuned. We will get Precious's information at the end so that you can keep following her and, see the show and so much more. Okay, now let's move on to your Kennedy Center experience. Do tell us how'd you get it, all the details that you've been giving us about your other stuff.
Yeah, so I actually saw this casting call for um this this play um that was all disabled cast, and it was basically a version of The Little Mermaid but through the lens of mental health and disability by this amazing playwright named Amy Clausen, who's now a really good friend of mine, and in conjunction with Open Circle Theater and the Kennedy Center. I have so many new friends from that experience now. But I remember seeing it and I was like, well, that looks kind of cool. I've never really acted in a play before, but I'm here for it. And so I just took a leap, and that's kind of what I've been doing. Like my whole mentality up to this point has been if it fits and it feels right, just go for it. So I I sent in my self tape. They gave me pointers, asked me to redo it, and then they said, "We want you." And so in March, I flew to DC, and for a week, it was a staged reading. So we weren't like moving, we were stationary and sitting, but we were reading through the script um, and acting it out. And it had like this amazing soundscape behind it and everything. And so I played one of the mermaid sisters. Her name was Winx, and the play is called Maybe She Dies. And I'm not going to spoil it because I'm sure there's going to be a reel that comes out or something about it. But it was at the Kennedy Center, and it was a residency. And for me, it was so amazing to be in a room that was not only so open but so compassionate, and like there were a lot of disabilities in the room, but everybody was so cognizant of like holding space for everybody else, and you know really just giving life to this play and um, making each other comfortable. And I don't think I've ever felt so seen in a room until that point. It was amazing, and um, truly my first foray into anything acting. Um, and we ended up having to figure out like, okay, this script is so long. For me, trying to scroll frantically through the lines to get to where I'm supposed to speak, we ended up figuring out, all right, I just need my cues. Like I need the lines before mine so that I can know exactly when I need to speak, and that worked perfectly. So like we worked together to figure out like how can I do this successfully, with what accommodations do I need. And that was the case for everybody. If anybody else needed anything, if there were any access needs, there was a access coordinator, and it was just a fantastic experience. And It set the bar really high for me for like, I've always been of the mindset of working with really genuine people only, and working and collaborating with friends. And so I made a lot of friends that week, and um, they were all so real and so genuine. And I think in these industries, it can be really hard to find that. And so I make it a point to stick with it when I do.
That's really important. You have to keep the right people around you. You have to have um, not only a good circle, but I want to say a good web. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about the
Good
people you're
good support
connecting.
system, good
Yeah,
network, like
yeah, exactly. Like
solid
going,
people.
and you're coming back to the Kennedy Center, right?
I am.
What can you tell us about that?
June 24th, 6 p.m., free show, Millennium Stage. See you there, friends. It's going to be live streamed on Facebook and on their YouTube. And it's an hour set with full band. So, and we'll be
Wow.
playing the new song at the end.
Oh, that's
So
going to be
you want to
exciting.
be there to see that in person if you can.
Yes, yes. I will definitely be there. Andy and I will be there screaming. So
Yes!
they're really open about, like during Millennium Stage, like it's as interactive as you want the audience to be is as interactive.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah,
here for that.
that's
Yes,
amazing. Yeah,
let's
so like
go.
there are people who have had it. They're like, get up and dance, like you know what I mean? And it's just
No,
like,
literally. Like that's gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited. Like I got literally just got back from getting my hair done right before we started recording because I'm not trying to travel around for the next little while in the
oh yeah,
summer with the curls and having to bring products everywhere. I was like, no, 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 we're getting these box braids, girl. So I got my
exactly.
outfits ready. I'm ready to go. Like, let's
I'm
do
ready
it.
for it. Well, I know you don't want to say too much before the show comes, or like, before things happen, but could you tell us how you got connected with the Kennedy Center again? Was this through the Open Circle program that you did before, or
This was actually through Lachi. She has
really?
helped me a lot, actually, like really solidify my presence and stuff before the label got involved. She was really helpful in, giving me tips and um, telling me like, what moves were the best to make to really keep moving forward. And so I'm really grateful for her guidance and her friendship. And so um, I think,
Yeah.
they were looking for people to be part of this social impact program that they're doing. And she put my name forth. And next thing I knew, I had an email like, hey, would you be available to do a set? Uh, and this was a couple months ago. And I was like, absolutely, yes. So, yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. And you know what? This just goes right back to what we just talked about. Good support system, good
Mm-hmm.
network. That's what people do, you know?
Yep.
It's about
I'm
looking
of the
out for each
mindset
other.
of like looking out for each other and lifting each other up. Like my
Exactly.
mindset has always been to uplift all the communities and all the identities that I represent through what I do. But that also goes along with uplifting the people around me that are also trying to get somewhere. And so to see that happening and to see people give me that kind of support really inspires me to keep moving and to keep doing what I'm doing to give back because for me, it's like, what's the point if you're just going to keep all of the everything for yourself? Like, there's no legacy in that, and there's no joy, and there's no like. I really think that you don't get anywhere alone. Like anybody who
For sure.
says that is a liar. So
And very
I'm
like egotistical, you know?
yeah, like I'm very, very excited to, not only to elevate myself, but to elevate all of my people and the people around me and just really uplift because that's what I'm here to do.
My goodness. Well, before I let you go, I want to know about Costa Rica. So, my first question is, was it accessible?
Yes, it
Really?
was. The money wasn't. But um like there's Uber, but the wild thing is they don't use an address system. So like everybody uses like location pins and stuff to like get around or like you could just type in like the name of a place and it'll pop up. So that was wild. I never tried walking around
That's
with Google Maps because I was like,
fascinating.
I don't know how that would work. But there is Uber. Um, and it was just they also have Uber Eats, so that was cool. We could just like order stuff in if we didn't feel like trying to traverse the neighborhood.
Hmm.
And then we stayed in this really, the label has like their base is a house. So there's also rooms in there.
Yeah.
And so they actually told us that they hired a like or they didn't I don't know if they hired or they spoke to an accessibility consultant to make sure that the house was like suitable and that they were doing the right things to make sure I felt comfortable in that space. Like they labeled the microwave with bump dots. These people are unreal.
Oh,
Like
I love
it was
that.
insane. So it was a fantastic experience. And then one day Shane wanted to go to the music store and get some, he likes to get percussion from different places.
Hmm.
So we went to the music store and then we were just gallivanting around the mall, just like walking into stores and like, what's this? What's this? But like everybody was so kind and so
Yeah.
friendly and so happy. And it was just really refreshing. Like nobody was trying to grab us or like,
Hmm.
you know, be weird like people in the
Yeah.
US are.
Yeah. No, don't even get me started on that. That's a whole episode in itself, and it's not even related to this
Yeah.
podcast. But um, we need to have like a travel accessibility podcast. That would be
Right.
something so fun and just fascinating to do. But oh my goodness. Okay, so it was accessible, and
Yes.
so was your video, was that set in like a neighborhood type of a scene, or was it like a, I know Costa Rica has like a lot of like jungle vibes and like rainforesty
So
type stuff.
we
Yeah.
were actually in the part that was more metropolitan,
Okay.
where all the beaches and stuff are like 2 hours out. But
Beautiful. Yeah.
we the concept for the video, because the song is basically talking about like living life on your own terms. So like as a woman, just like, you know, not letting things get to you and really just living your life
Hmm.
without asking permission to do that, you
Hmm.
know? And
Hmm.
so the whole concept, Paula, the video director, was like, you know, for me, when I think about like living my life and like whatever, I think about my support system and my friends. And so her concept, which is absolutely like when I'm telling you they nailed everything. Like that video concept took no less than for her to get it out for me to be like, yes, absolutely, I agree. Like it was so good. So the video is basically it's me and a group of friends like getting ready to go out. So like there's parts where we're like putting on makeup and changing outfits and like there's it's a diverse cast. So we're all like, you know, different and it's fantastic because, you know, that represents like my friends and it made me think of my friends. And then we all became friends shooting the video because we all got along so well that it didn't really feel like a video shoot to me. It was just really fun. Um and so, you know, it's us getting ready for a night out and then us like in the Uber, like passing around a drink and like all kinds of it's just a really, really fun vibe.
I love
Um
it.
and so we're working on audio description still. They're trying to figure out how to make that happen, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
to come. But the video is up as is right now.
Yes, it is. Um, okay, I just have one more question before we start giving information about YouTube and everything else. So, what was it like? Okay, you told us what the experience was like, but I want to know what the experience was like. If the different shows and the tone of voice, I don't know. But I guess my question is not just in like a like like we did this, we did that, but like for someone who's never done it before. Was this your first music video or did you have others?
This is my first music video. Like I have a music video, but it was more like a picture music video where someone
Yeah,
like set pictures to the song. It wasn't like I've never done a video shoot before.
exactly. Okay, so
So
perfect then.
it was incredible. Like I had so many moments where I was like, I feel like such a real artist right now. Like
Because you are.
there was a team of people, like there was crew, there was lighting, there was the cast, we had makeup artists, hair people, like it was the whole nine. And I
Okay,
was just
tell us. What
I
happens
was
first?
so what happens first, like the first day, like the makeup artist has to get acclimated to each person's face, so it took a little while. But like you do makeup and hair and like they style, and then you change into your outfits because we had to do like fittings and stuff beforehand. Um, and then I also had to do choreography rehearsal um, in advance so that I worked with the choreographer and she, you know, helped me really feel comfortable moving and like choreographing the chorus. So I knew like before we rehearsed it all together, I knew and felt comfortable with the movements. And um, so we had a choreographer and she was fantastic. And whenever we needed to like adjust anything, they would call her in and be like, can you help her um, figure out how to move this way? Because like if they were thinking something and I wasn't quite doing it the same way, there was somebody who was able to really coach me through that. There were, you know, once you do, it depends on like, because they have a whole um, idea. Like the director has a whole rundown of like what scenes they're going to do and like what shots they're going to get. And so sometimes you're doing a couple takes of the same thing. Like there's a part where we're all like putting our spoons into this cake, this pink cake. By the way, everything was pink, and pink is my favorite color, so they really nailed that
I
aesthetic, and
love
I
that.
am here for it. Um, but like we had to do that scene like a couple different times because obviously like I'm just blindly like shoving the spoon into the cake and I'm trying to make sure that I'm angling it and like that they capture it with the right angles and like it was incredible to see like what really goes into all of that. Like they had stuff brought in and donated and stuff to create the bedroom scene, and like we were in a moving vehicle driving around while shooting for the car scene. It was just like this wild experience. And I was just sitting there the whole time, like, wow, this is really happening. Like, it was so cool.
It sounds so surreal. I'm just sitting here like I'm picturing everything as you describe it, and I'm just like it's true. They're not just putting a camera up and pointing it somewhere. They need that angle of the spoon. You know what I mean? To be just right. They need
Mm-hmm.
to capture the glints and the lights. You know what I mean? And the pink and the
Yep.
silver and the you know what I mean? They need to get all of it. So this is so, so cool. I'm glad to hear that not only did they make everything accessible, but you were treated with the utmost professionalism. You know what I mean? They made sure that
Absolutely. Yeah.
everything was done to the standard that they would have had for anyone else. And this is so, so important. So as you're moving about in the video, are you how are you doing it? Are you using a cane? Had you memorized the set for this one? You don't use a dog, so that's out of the question. But what how did you move about and navigate the set?
So it was actually done in the house that I was staying in. And so there was this one scene that I remember where we were like leaving the room, but then this one of the girls was like, "Oh no, we have to take a selfie, come back." So we all had to like turn around, run back in because the Uber was almost there, and then run back out. And so um we had to like get to the exact spot. So what happened was I walked, I did sighted guide with one of the girls. And so it looked authentic because that's what I would be doing
Yep.
if we were just like running around. Um and that was another thing they really made sure of, like how would you do this authentically so that we can, whenever we were filming content, like because while I was there we also filmed like TikTok content and stuff for them to use for later releases and things. So they were like, they handed me a book and I was like, wait, hold on. Can you go grab my braille device for me? And they were like, oh, yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Like, and so, whenever I mention anything, like image descriptions, they
Yeah.
immediately incorporated those things and they understood the importance of them. And we spent time really getting into what matters and why. And they are so invested in my vision and in me as an artist. And I couldn't have asked for a better experience with any kind of label. So I'm really, really excited about it.
It sounds absolutely amazing. And I love how you mentioned that the video was shot at the same place that you were staying at because that makes all the difference. I mean, As a blind person, someone once asked, like, oh, do you use a cane in the house? Or people would just assume that I use a cane in the house. I'm like, for what? Like, I know the house. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
unless it's a big
So
old house, because that house, I definitely needed my cane in that house. That place was
you need
huge.
a-
I was
that's
like,
amazing. That's
mm-mm. These stairs are something else. I can't right now.
I believe it. I believe it. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that everything was done very authentically, that they cared about all those little nuances. It sounds like they also learned a lot from you, and it just sounds like a really amazing experience. So I'm so glad that you got to have it. And as Precious has already mentioned, the video aired. It is up on YouTube. Where can they find it?
Precious Perez Musica on everything. YouTube, Facebook, Precious P Musica on Twitter, Precious Perez Musica on Instagram, TikTok, all the same. I'm also known as La Reggaetonera Ciega. So that is my other name. If you see that pop up in a bio or something, that's my tagline. So
Absolutely love it. Love it all. Listen, even if you don't speak Spanish, as we were talking about before, the music sounds amazing. I had it on. Andy was dancing to it. He doesn't speak a word of Spanish. I'm like, but
that's so cool.
we were just in here just bopping. So everyone highly, highly recommend. Um, Listen, this is something we know Precious and we know her music. We know that she's positive, that she is doing this. The kids like to say for the culture these days, but she's doing this um, with blindness in mind, with her Latina heritage in mind. It's all very empowering, and we need to support this as members of the Federation. And anyone who is not a member of the Federation, but just likes to listen to the podcast as a podcast listener, as a supporter of Scene Change, Precious is doing that. She is changing the scene as far as music and so much more. So thank you so, so much for joining us. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. This has been another episode, an amazing episode of Scene Change. Thanks, Precious.
Thank you.
I'm Caitlin McIntyre, President of the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Scene Change. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and visit our website at nfb-pad.org. There you'll find links to our social media, membership, and resources for blind performers. Thanks to everyone who makes this show happen. Scene Change is produced by Shane Lowe, Joe Schuneman, Precious Perez, Chris Nussbaum, Seyun Choi, and Aaron Jordan, with music by Ryan Strunk and Tom Page. Remember, you can be the performer you want. Blindness is not what holds you back. We'll see you next time.